You guys, Doug with Pinetree Line Productions. I'm here with Allan Bow Beauchamp, and we're here in the backcountry of Northern Ontario. Today we're going to talk about playing in the woods, but preparing to play properly in the woods. Al?
Exactly. Hi, great to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we talked last time about you want to do the planning before the playing, and that's very important. The more that you plan, the better time we're going to have out here. There's a lot of things can happen out here, and we want to pay attention to the small details, but we want to plan for the small details for any eventuality before it happens.
Here we are. We're at the table. Al, I see you got a bunch of equipment. I recognize that bag because we've already had a good look at it. More bags here. What's the planning all about?
So the last time we got together, we had this bag, and this bag was based on the season we were in and what we were planning to do if we were going to be out for the day. Since that time, a few things have changed. Certainly we got snow on the ground and it's gotten colder, which is going to change what goes on in this bag or which bag I select.
But what about these additional bags? Depend on temperature, depend on time of season. Why the different bags?
So what happens is that this all goes back to the planning. So what we want to do is, if it was a nice sunny day and there was no snow on the ground and we figure we were only going to be here for an hour, and it depends on the trip that we're going to do too. We have to sit down and decide, are we going together on the trip or am I going by myself? What kind of skills do I have? What's the season going to be? What's the temperature? Is it going to rain? Is it going to snow? All that kind of stuff is going to dictate basically what I carry, and then what the volume is that I'm going to bring for the bag. So if I'm just going out for 2 hours to look at something to take a picture, I certainly wouldn't bring this bag. Like, I would probably bring something like this with the core items that I would need to take care of me for the day, for hydration, or maybe for a little bit of food or toiletries, this kind of stuff. But if it's going to be cold or something's going to change or the trip gets extended, I certainly want to look at more volume pack to bring more things, and that's what we're going to kind of discuss today.
Okay, and one of the things that, you know, I go on canoe trips and camping and stuff, and one of the things I'll do with whoever's coming on the trip with me is we'll divide equipment, so to speak. So if I'm bringing a saw, perhaps my partner in the trip will bring an axe or something. Would you consider the same thing depending who you're going out with?
Yeah, absolutely. What I try to do is I try to break all the gear down into the highest priority. If it's going to be fire and it's going to be a rainy season, we want to make sure that we have a lot of heat. You'd probably want to bring two stoves, one person, one the other. So what would happen is if one didn't work, you'd have a backup plan, or if you both have the same stove, you would have parts and pieces if one broke down. So I'm all about sharing the stuff and making sure that the stuff that you have is well thought out based on where you're going, what you're doing, what you need, maybe a Hail Mary plan, this kind of stuff. And at the same time, then we can look at and say, okay, we don't need 2 shovels, maybe we only need 1. Or the water system that you have is very capable of being cleaned in the bush. We have a maintenance kit for it. We don't need to bring 2 of those. So we can lighten the load, because the old saying, ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain, and that's true.
Absolutely true. If you're going deep in the woods, would you consider bringing the bigger pack just in the case of something goes wrong and you need to spend more time out there than you expected? Or would you still be comfortable going with something like this?
Well, it all goes back to skills levels. Years ago, when I did a lot of work in the extremes and a lot of skill challenges stuff, there was many times where most of the stuff that you see that I have on my person was really all I used in 20 and 30 below, but that's based on skills. Now, if something was to change in that plan, or I got hurt, or something catastrophic happened, having the extra gear is certainly going to make it easier for you and safer for you at the same time. Now, being out in the outdoors and having a little bit extra, there's nothing wrong with that. I always encourage people that if one thing is good, 2 things is probably really good.
Right.
So if you're bringing something out in the outdoors and you don't need it, you can always leave it in your bag. But if something changes, or like one time I seen when I was in the Sonoran Desert in California, I'm in the bush and I run across a guy from there who's dehydrated. So the extra stuff that I had that I never really needed, I offered to him, which got him back on his feet, got him moving along.
Right, makes a huge difference. So that's part of the planning, part of the preparation too. If you didn't plan or prepare for that trip with extras, maybe you can't help that gentleman out the way you did.
Absolutely. Or sometimes yourself. I mean, you could be in a situation where you're planning for 24 hours, but you could be there for 72 hours. It could be, you could be on a canoe trip and there could be a microburst go by, and all of a sudden it's like, we have to hunker down, we got to stay here, and we got to wait till this goes by and see what the results are. So maybe you got to stay longer, or it gets colder and you're consuming more. Maybe you use more fuel, or you used more food. Planning is going to dictate what bag that I bring along with me. So if I'm a fellow that's very capable and I have very good skills, I could probably get away with a smaller bag, whereas maybe a novice is saying, you know what, maybe I'm not that good on fire starting, maybe I need a bigger fire starter, or I'm not going to bring a fire starter to start a fire in the bush, I'm going to bring a stove. So that's going to dictate the size that he's going to need, because he's carrying extra stuff with him.
Right.
So the knowledge component of being out here, so if you and I come out here for the next 10 days and every day we went into the bush and we made a fire with a flint and steel, and you got really comfortable and capable of doing that, maybe on your next canoe trip, instead of bringing, you know, maybe a flare to start a fire or some other implement, you're going to want to work your skills, and you're comfortable doing that because you've already put some time in. That's going to allow you to maybe use less room in your bag for something else, and it's going to give you the opportunity to say, you know what, maybe I don't need this bag, maybe only half this size of bag is going to be good for me. Lots of times in the winter, a lot of times you'll see me snowshoeing in with this pack, and this is about a 40-liter pack. A lot of times it's just bulk stuff. Sometimes it's just an extra fleece in there or extra socks, that kind of stuff. A lot of times when I get in the bush, I'll just tie it up to the tree, and most times I don't really use the stuff that's in there.
Right.
I'll take the consumables out of it because it's a lot easier to eat like a sandwich bar than it is maybe snacking on a piece of bark in the bush.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, you don't necessarily have to use everything in your bag, but it's nice to have, and it's a good backup plan. So if something goes wrong, you could slip on a rock, you could twist your ankle, you could get hurt. It's nice to tuck into something, have a little bit of something till somebody comes and gets you. Which brings me back to the planning again. So if you and I were going out for 24 hours, we would let somebody know. And that person would have a deadline and say, okay, these two folks are going in the bush, they're going on a canoe trip. They're supposed to be out on Friday. I want to make sure that I contact them on Saturday to make sure they're out. If not, then I know that, you know, something's went wrong, and we're safe knowing that that individual is competent enough to keep track of what we're doing and call somebody if we need it. So then our safety system's good. So there's different size of bags out there today. There's different configurations. Some have hydration systems in them, some don't. Some have a variety of pockets configured in a way that makes everything that you have very modular, which is good. I'm a big fan of that. This leather pouch was actually a backpack I used for a lot of years. It was very simple, it was very easy. It contained everything I needed for the winter. Not a very big bag. Easy to carry around, easy to hang up, easy to keep track of what's in there. This is a little bit bigger bag. It's got a couple more pouches on it. It's got exterior pouches, interior pouches. It's got a lot of little pockets and pouches all over the place. So if I want to put a cell phone in, or a camera, or Kleenex roll, or chapstick, I can put small items in one, bigger items in another. And the one thing that I try to mention to people is every time you open a zipper to a pack, if this was to fall on the ground, you could lose a lot of stuff. A lot of times I like to attach things to cordage, attach it to the bag. So with a variety of pockets, it's worth making sure that they're closed. You get a good quality pack. This one doesn't have any zippers. This one's got all kinds of zippers and little pockets. It's also got a hydration system back here, which is good. It's comfortable, it's quick, it's easy. For a lot of skills, I use this. If I'm doing a day trip where I just want to have a bunch of consumables because I got something else going on out there, this will certainly work for me. This again is the same kind of style pack. This was more of the hydration. Gives me a small pouch, so if I was going to be in the Death Valley or the Sonoran Desert like I was one time, hydration would be a higher priority for me. Electrolytes may be in here, a little bit of first aid stuff in here, and that would probably be enough for the day. This pack here again too is another hydration pack. We're seeing a common theme here with hydration. Water is a big thing. We're 75% water, so we certainly got to keep our water. Having it on your back is better than going over to the pond there and getting it. It's quick, it's easy. This is a little bit bigger pouch than this. So I've got the hydration, same as this, but this gives me a few more things. This gives me maybe a bit more first aid. Maybe I'm going a bit farther. Maybe I need a sheet of plastic. Maybe I'm staying the night. A few more options in here. This bag again has a hydration package in the back. Hydration, hydration. This has a variety of pockets. They're broken down into smaller modular pockets. I like that because I would put hydration in the bottom, hydration in the back, gives me lots of hydration. I could put first aid on one, I could put fire on the other. So it just depends on what you're doing for the day, what you think you have to bring. So if I was going to go out today and stay the night or 2 nights, cold is going to be an issue. So water is not going to be an issue because I can melt snow. So maybe something that's going to give me more fire, going to give me more wind protection, that would fit more into that size of bag. I could put more consumables in here than I can in here. So one thing that I always stress is sometimes based on your budget. If you can afford to have a bit more, always have a bit more. If you can afford the pack with the better straps, some of these packs have cooling systems, so when you're walking, the air will flow where some of these don't have that. So it's based on your back, it's based on your budget, it's based on what you think you have to do. But the one thing that I always say to folks is you can go cheap on your gear, but when you're in the bush, if the strap breaks, that's just causing you grief that maybe you don't need. And even recently, as I'll show you in that pack there, what happened is a couple weeks ago I'm hunting, I come off a rock, I catch my foot on a vine, I go face first down, I fall down hard enough to hit that I break the straps off my pack. So what I did is I just re-rigged the pack and away I go. But with good quality gear you can do that. I didn't rip the whole side out of it, which happened to me one time with a pack. As I was in the bush one time and my bag was getting lighter and I couldn't figure out why, and then finally I realized that one of the side seams had come out and things were slowly falling out of my bag, and then I had to walk quite a ways back to get the rest of my gear.